Hi, I'm Carla D. Tillery, and welcome to the Chair Chronicles. I'm your life coach and your favorite auntie. You know, that aunt that is so not afraid to tell you the truth and help you see things just a little clearer, and you love her advice. Well, as a certified life coach with over 2 decades of experience, I'm very passionate about helping you find your happiness. So pull up a chair and let's have a talk. LA, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm
Very
good.
good.
We got a hot topic for today.
All right, give it to me.
All right. So, is it a good idea to tell like your best friend or someone that you're close to if
Okay.
you see their partner with someone else? And I
Ooh,
mean, like you see them and you kind of suspect that perhaps they're cheating.
okay.
Would you tell your best friend if you
Okay.
saw
If
their
it's
partner?
my best friend, I mean,
Hmm.
we have a solid relationship where we're more than just sister girls. We are family.
Okay.
She trusts me, I trust her.
Hmm.
I would say something. Um, and again, it depends upon where I see their partner.
Okay.
Um, uh, is it a compromising situation? If it's just they're just you see him standing there talking to someone, I
Hmm.
cannot surmise that they're cheating. If
Right.
I see him with his arm wrapped around her and I know it's not family or anything like that, okay, we're talking something totally different. Even if I see that person sitting somewhere eating with that person, you really have to kind of know. If I'm
Which
close enough to,
so okay, so if
yeah.
you
So give me
see
some
that
scenarios.
person, yeah. So if you see that was a good one right there at a restaurant, right? Because you
Mhm.
may not know and you may not get a hint of any kind of emotions being shared. They might just be sitting down eating. You don't know at this point if it's a co-worker, if it's a family friend, or what
Right.
the situation is, right? But if you
Mm-hmm.
see them at a restaurant, would you even go say hi? Because I'm assuming if it's
Mm-hmm.
someone that close to you,
Right.
like your best friend,
Yes.
uh, that you would know their partner, right?
Right.
So would you let the partner know that you were there and you saw him or her?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Because there's a saying, um, if you have nothing to hide, hide nothing. So if I walk up to you and I said, "Hey, how are you?"
Uh-huh.
And they're fumbling and mm-hmm. I see you. I see you. But if
Look
they're
at you. You are
comfortable,
look, I see you. You got the you like, I see you. You ready to
right?
go in
So
already.
yeah, so I believe you make your presence known, especially if you're able to. And again, you don't have to walk up to that person with this look in your eye. Walk up to them and random. Hi, how are you?
Hmm.
And I think by body language, by stuttering, and just how they handle that, you approaching them will kind of give you a clear indication of if there's something amiss. And
But
I
they
would
could
say,
be nervous just for the fact that you might think it's something when it's not. So I don't know
yeah,
how nervousness can be interpreted in different people, right?
true,
Because
true,
I could be nervous just because I don't want you to get the wrong idea, right? And
true,
then be
right,
saying something, right?
right, right.
Or it could be nervous because you are trying to hide something.
Yeah, yeah. This is it. Now that you say that, because you don't want to be starting nothing now.
You don't want to be starting anything, but I know that I this question has been around for a long time, right?
Mhm. Right,
And I know that there are people who would say, that's my personal business, that's my relationship. I
right.
don't want to know anything. Let me find out on
Figure it out.
my own. Because
Mm,
it has, in some situations, broken up the relationship because
right,
they're best friends,
right,
right?
right,
And it's like, you're doing too much, you overstepping your boundaries. I
right.
didn't ask you that. I've seen and I've talked to people who are very
Mhm,
defensive and would say, don't say anything. That's none of your business. And
mhm.
then I know others who would
Right,
say, you know what? If you think something is going on and in my best interest, tell me. And
right,
you
right,
got to know if that person is going to like
right.
immediately accuse their partner, because I think that's dangerous.
Right.
to say so and so saw you and whatever the situation is, and say,
Right.
you're cheating or you're doing something inappropriate without really understanding who it was, what was going on, what's the story.
Right.
Now I'm
Right.
not saying it ain't gonna be a made up story, but it could be the truth.
Right. Right. So it's like it's like you said, it's that tightrope balancing act, because again, you don't want to create a rift where there is none,
Right,
but then you also don't want someone that you love and care about to be out here looking crazy
right.
where everybody else know and they don't know, which again, that lends itself to that question saying, how much does a person really know? do
Mm-hmm.
they do they know for themselves whether or not their partner is up to no good? And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, don't tell me, I don't want to know, let me find out for myself, where a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, I believe the person suspects anyway.
Yes.
So again, you don't want to be the bearer of bad news, and you don't want to come out looking like the bad guy. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you made me kind of change how I thought about it.
Well, it came back to my mind again because I was watching the movie this Christmas, and
Mhm.
just enjoying trying to get the spirit cheer and all of that, putting up my
Uh,
Christmas tree, and
mhm.
and so I'm watching all of these great Christmas films, and
Uh-huh.
in that particular movie, there's two sisters, and
Mm.
one of the sisters' husband is cheating. And she walks in, overhears a conversation, and then all of a
Right.
sudden he's got this emergency business trip. So he
Mm.
takes this trip. The sisters are already fighting, just sibling
Right.
rivalry stuff that happened. And then
Right.
they're having this conversation, and she's like, your husband is cheating on you.
Wow.
And I don't know if she was trying to do it as a jab,
That's a
like
way.
you're not that
Right.
perfect, you're the sister, you think you got it going on, and here you are, your husband is cheating on you.
Mhm.
But
Right.
then the sister responds, I know. So she really doesn't get upset at the sister for like
Mhm.
saying
Right.
it. It would
Right.
she was more upset, like, you don't understand my situation. I've got kids, and
Right.
I'm trying to keep my family together. And she
Mm.
was like, at the risk of your, of who you are as a person, like, you're
Right.
strong. You don't
Right.
need to tolerate that. Right.
Exactly.
And
Right.
so that situation was an interesting dynamic of how, the producer and the writer of that film kind of, wrote the responses and the reactions.
Right. Right. And that's very interesting because, my first reaction was like, wow, her sister wielded that as almost like as a weapon to hurt her.
Yes,
But look at the shock, because now the reverse is she already knew.
she already knew.
Yeah. So,
So in some relationships, right,
right.
best friends, and I've seen this, and I'm not saying in all relationships, but
Hmm.
sometimes there can be a little bit of competitiveness.
Right. Right.
Right. And so
Yeah.
are you saying it to, one up?
Right.
Well,
Right.
the one up, I know something you don't know.
Right. Right.
Or are you really saying something in the interest, the best
Mhm.
interest of your dear friend or your sister or your brother? It could be on the guy's side too, because
Right.
guys would be like, your chick is, she
Yeah.
out there,
Mhm.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Handle
I
that.
believe that I believe
Look,
it's
handle
easier.
that.
Yeah, and I believe that men are more so willing to say, I
Exactly.
saw your chick with somebody, where we walk a little bit more of the emotional side of how is this going to impact that person, and also how it's going to impact our relationship, because it
Yeah.
will be different, because
Yeah.
again, it's almost like damned if I do, damned if I don't, because
Yes.
if that person said, well, you saw them and you never said, why didn't you say anything?
Right. That's the flip side. If they
Yeah.
find out and it was like, girl, yeah, I know I saw something I didn't want to say. Why didn't you say anything? And I'm going, I'm dealing with this. And you have me out here looking like a fool. Because a lot of times, you feel like perhaps embarrassed because somebody else knows it and you don't, and you don't know
Right.
yet. Right. So
Right.
then you're feeling like, I should have known. I didn't see the red flag. So now you're carrying like that shame and that guilt of
Mhm.
not knowing. And now you're
Exactly.
mad. You're just pissed off mad
Right.
because
Right.
you knew all this time and you never said anything.
Right. And then again, like she said, I knew. So it's like, okay, is it that you're really mad at me for not saying anything, or you're really mad at yourself because you kind of suspected.
Right.
And again, like you said, somebody else found out what you
Right.
already knew.
What you already knew.
This is
And then the questions like, why would you stay in a relationship with someone when you know that they're stepping outside of the partnership, right?
right,
I mean, and
right,
that's a whole nother conversation on that.
right, right. And so maybe I don't know if it's the actual answer, but okay, you see someone, you see the person, you've spoken to them, and you still are kind of feeling like, this doesn't seem right. Do you then talk to your friend and just kind of, engage in conversation and kind of get a feel for, is there trouble in paradise? Is there something that she feels uneasy about? And then that maybe gives you a better sense of, maybe then I can share this with her. So what, so again, it's like, that's a hard one.
It is, and I do think you've got to understand the relationship you're in, because like you said, I think kind of assessing and testing, I think, is important. Sometimes, girls trip or guys day out, I would like to think perhaps over the years something this question has come up. It's like, man, do you want to know? Girl, do you want to know? Because if I see something, I can say something. Right. But let me know. I don't know if you want me to or not want me to.
And we can investigate this together.
Right. Right. And but you do put yourself in risk, because a lot of times you don't know how they're going to respond. Right. And they could take it out on you, and it could cause a disruption in your relationship, or they might absolutely embrace and feel like you are protecting them. So at least they can start to ask the right questions. So
maybe this is a great segue to say then, when you are forming your great friendships and, as you evolve and become more like family and sisters than just besties that we talk to every now and again, our acquaintances and stuff like that, ask that question. Like you said, like on a day out, you're just hanging out and just for no particular reason, say, listen, I'm just curious, how would you handle if, you saw the guy I'm seeing with someone out? Would you tell me, how would you handle it? This is how I feel about it. And just have those honest conversations. So that way, because you don't know what you don't know if you don't ask. Right?
If you don't ask, that's right. Yeah. So at least I say, I absolutely agree to that. I think that is a good way to learn to even have a better understanding of your friendship, in your friendship, right? To kind of understand who that person is and how they like to receive information, and whether they feel like that's too much, whether, an outsider saying anything is, inappropriate or open. Maybe they're open to it. And so, I think it's a great question to put out there on a girls' night out, or for guys to be like, what's up? If I see your girl out there, you want me to say something? Because, there's all these kind of like girl codes and guy codes, and so you need to know who's on what side of the code.
At all costs, you have to also protect yourself, because you do. People are very sensitive, and at the end of the day, you don't want to look like the villain, like you were,
the home wrecker.
Yeah, you were doing something that was underhanded, and you could be, as genuine as you want to be, but if the other person doesn't receive that, then it can really go really south really quickly. So
but you got to be sure you know what you're seeing and know what you're saying, because the negative side of it is, if nothing is going on, you could be instilling insecurity in a relationship and kind of putting that element there that never existed, because they had developed a trust, right? And so it could have been a coworker, it could, because you might see at least in my line of work, there are days that I do go in the field, and I'm going in the field with my coworker. And I don't do as much of this now, but there are times where it's necessary. We're in the car together. Now, if someone sees us in the car together and be like running off, they could be totally wrong.
Right. Because the inference is, oh, why is she in some other man's car?
Exactly.
Right. So, and I think like you said, you have to really be clear.
Mhm.
Okay, you walk into a club and you see him, grinding on some woman,
Mhm.
kissing on her neck.
Mhm.
Okay, that's just clear. You are out of bounds, and it
Ah,
doesn't
no,
mean that
he was just having some fun.
it doesn't mean that he's cheating. But I'm gonna let you know I see you,
He's just having some fun.
and that's all well and good. But that kind of fun you shouldn't be having if you're in a relationship. You all hugging, kissing on somebody's neck and all that. So I mean, again, it has to do. You really, like you said, you have to walk that line of
Mhm.
not just looking at what you see,
Mhm.
because again, our eyes can tell us a story that may not be true.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Our eyes can tell us a story that we may not see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make believe is real.
Yeah.
Imagination is a real thing.
And by the time you put your story out there in the atmosphere and you using your hand gestures and your neck, it can be interpreted really, really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, do you feel like it also depends upon the level of the relationship that you have with your friend?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that there are many different types of relationships that I have. There's certain circles of closeness, I would say. I think the further removed you are, there's no need for me to be saying anything just because of the way we interact. But I think for people that are in a close circle, I would think very carefully about it. And I would want to know if that person wants me to say, do we talk about things like that? And I think you have to be careful in any relationship. How far out do you go about sharing what's happening, right? Because I think there's some people wouldn't know. It's never a topic of discussion to start with, so it would be strange for someone to come to me if we've never talked about my relationship at all.
Right.
That's number one. So yeah, so I would do that the same way. It's like, have we been open about that? It certainly should be a limited number of people. I think you do have to protect your relationship, and you have to build trust, and you have to build transparency.
Right.
So in that example, when I'm out in the field, when I'm talking about my week, there's an expectation that he knows what I'm doing in general.
Right.
So I'm out in the field. So if someone says anything, he's like, "Yeah, Carla said she had to go out in the field this week. She's out with so."
Right.
So who I work with and what I do should not catch him off guard.
Right.
Because I'm open about it. I have no reason to shelter that information.
Right.
So yeah, I would definitely be cautious about my input into someone else's relationship. And I would want to know if they're open to me saying anything or not.
Okay, well, you're our life coach. So let me give you a scenario and you tell me how you would.
Okay.
Okay. Wonderful friendship, 30 plus years in. She has come to you with some issues that she's had in the past in a relationship. You see her significant other out, and it clearly is a position that he should not be in. I mean, you see it, you've approached, and let's say you didn't approach him, but you clearly saw that it truly wasn't somebody that he should not have been around, because this person has come up before.
Gotcha.
How do you talk to your friend about this?
Okay. I am one who asks more questions than making statements. So I probably would start probing with, how are things going? Trying to see if she has any indication or is willing to share that something is offsetting or off-putting in that relationship. I would probably test the waters a little bit first and ask a lot of questions about how are things going with that. Are you concerned about anything in the relationship? Is there anything going on that makes you kind of wonder, how solid and how stable you are? So I would ask more questions, and so as a life coach, I do that too. But as a sister or best friend, I probably would elevate that to another level.
Great.
If I'm really close with them, then I may say, what's been going on? Have y'all been doing date nights? Are you feeling comfortable? Do you feel insecure about anything in your relationship? Just to try to open up that dialogue.
Right.
And then depending on how she would respond to that, I may go a little further and say, you know what, I'm concerned. I don't know how you're going to take this. I don't know how you're going to receive it from me, but I am concerned because I did see something. Now, if that person is not comfortable and I know they don't want me saying anything, then I wouldn't.
Right.
I wouldn't.
Right. Right.
But if I get a sense that they do, and usually I ask if they want me to say something, I'm pretty good about that. I don't want to just be blurting out. and I know I have some friends who say, it's none of your business. So not that, not that crude and crude, but I've learned over the years that certain things with their relationship is hands off, and I'm okay with that.
Right. I feel the same way. I mean, I know that.
Respect the boundary.
Yeah, but I like that.
I respect my boundary, whatever that is.
Yes.
If I set a boundary, just respect the line.
Right, and I think that's another good way of diffusing things when you have that scenario where the person has found out and then they know that you've seen them out and they say, why didn't you tell me? It's about respecting you and your relationship, and you can be honest and say, we've never had that conversation about how you feel about knowing things, or if I've seen something or I've heard something. And again, you can also say, listen, I don't want to be the creator of a scenario that is not there. I'm here to support you with whatever you're going through. If you need to have a talk with that person, and put the onus, because sometimes we get held responsible for someone else's relationship sometimes. And I think that's where you put the onus back on that person and say, listen, if you're having concerns, you need to talk to that person. You need to talk to the person you're in a relationship with. Ask those hard questions. And if you feel like they're not being honest, that's your answer.
Right. And I would be careful as how much you share. Right. You don't have to go into all the details, I feel, because again, as you say, your eyes might see a story that doesn't exist. Right. So, you don't know if that is someone perhaps being consoled for the death of a lost one, or it could be something tragic. Right. And saying an embrace could be interpreted, of course, different ways, but it could be completely honest. It could be completely just in the moment to make sure that person was okay.
Right.
And we don't know if that person is releasing any emotions, or is it the other person trying to draw someone? And then before you realize, it's like, wait a minute, So there's so much to it, and you have to be careful. So asking questions certainly makes more sense to me. I would encourage people to ask more questions than to make statements and say, I believe this is going on, as opposed to say, are you okay? I'm concerned about you. Would you want me to say something if I saw something? You need to kind of know those things. Right. Or you start just saying, well, I saw such and such and they were doing this, and girl, they were doing that. That's too much.
Right. And know for yourself. Know for yourself as well. How would you feel if someone, revealed something that, maybe you didn't want to know, maybe something that you did know, maybe something, like you said, that it may be innocent, how would you feel? So, and I think if we think about ourselves and how we would want to receive information, it makes us more aware and more conscious of how we handle, I like that. I like that a lot.
And I know in many cases, there are so many people say, it's none of your business, so don't say anything.
Right.
But I do think it's up to the people in the relationship. I think it can be handled well if that person is close to you and says, you know what, if you see something, I would like for you to say something.
Right.
So I think it can be handled with tact. I think it can be handled with maturity. But it does depend on the individual. It does. It is so individual dependent. But I won't say just because it's not your business, don't say anything. Because if you have a close relationship, that can be interpreted that you're my business. I want to take care of you. You're
Right.
going to take care of me. We will protect each other. We have a bond. I want us to be safe and healthy and in good relationships. So it may be established that that is appropriate because of that relationship is defined that way. And so I do struggle with just putting a blanket thing out there for everybody to say it applies. Because I think it really solely depends on the individuals at play.
Right. And I like the way you unpack that, because what happens is when we have those kind of questions come up, there's a definitive yes or no. And it really isn't. It really depends upon your level of relationship with the person. Have you had that talk about how you handle that kind of information, and even know it for yourself? Be honest with yourself and know how you want it handled. So that way, as you move forward, you'll understand that with the relationships that you do have. So I mean, it really is about just being empathetic and like I said, for the most part, mind your business. Start off minding your business until you're asked for your business. Until you're invited in,
because it's a slippery slope. I do say always err on the side of caution. And if your relationship is defined where you can say something, you still need to exercise caution. I still think you need to know what you saw, have a certain certainty about it. But I think your approach and how you handle it means everything.
Everything. Yeah.
It means everything. So you need to have some clarity about how you say things, how you word things, and not infuse what you believe versus what you just saw, Stay factual, Because it is a slippery slope.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
It is.
That's a good one, though.
Yeah,
we don't think about it. We don't think about it until we're asked. I mean, that's a real life one.
Right. And I just remember watching that film like, oh my gosh. And I've seen it, many times, several times.
Right.
And that part still gets to me because it's like, the response and the reaction, that kind of stuff has broken up families, it's broken up relationships. And it's like we've been talking about, it certainly depends on the situation, but it's so layered because, sometimes you feel like your person is just settling and they're not pushing for to live their best life, and you're frustrated. So you're like, girl, he's this, or man, don't tolerate your woman treating you like that. You know how many women are out here who would treat you like a king. So it's just astonishing, I think, from the multitude of reactions that can come out of this.
Right.
Sometimes you don't know where it is going to land.
Right. And also know this, even if the person, even if you told them and you felt comfortable, you asked the questions and you told them, it doesn't necessarily mean that person's going to do anything with that information that you've given them. And you've got to be okay with that. And you've got to know that, look, you came from a place of care and concern, and then let it be. Let it be, because we all have a right to our choices, and as much as we want the best for someone, if that's not where they are, we have to love on them anyway. Anyway, and don't become the villain. Don't let it be that every time you see them, you're bringing information back. You've cleared your conscience by coming to them with the information that you had, that you know to be true, if you really knew it to be true, and what they decide to do with it. You just have to be there for the person.
And we've seen this play out in media with, people of notoriety, whether the presidents or not. I remember when Bill Clinton and that information came out. Hillary Clinton got a lot of she was viewed differently. And on both sides, you're a strong woman for standing by your man and for working it out. And on the other hand, you were weak, because you stayed with him. And so, it's hard to it's hard to live someone else's life.
That's it.
You got to live your own. And sometimes we put out all of this judgment without knowing what really is happening. So
exactly.
Listen, everybody's got to live their own life.
That's it.
But listen, this is a great question. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
Perhaps you've been in this situation, or perhaps you've been asked to say something and you didn't. Let us know. Share your story. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to share this podcast. Don't forget to like it and comment on it. We want to hear from you because I think that is just a beautiful thing when you can share your story. And perhaps we'll bring you on and you can actually join us, me in LA, and we can go more in depth in this conversation. So please connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. So stay tuned and stay connected on The
Chair Chronicles.
Woo!